Uganda, a nation known for its rich culture and history, harbored a dark chapter in its past. This is the story of Idi Amin, a man who rose from humble beginnings to become one of Africa's most infamous dictators. Born in 1925 in Koboko, Uganda, Idi Amin's journey to power began in the British colonial army. His charisma and ambition caught the eye of his superiors, propelling him through the ranks. Idi Amin was a man of contradictions. On one hand, he projected an image of strength and leadership. On the other, he harbored a ruthless streak that knew no bounds. His ascent to power in 1971, through a military coup that ousted President Milton Obote, marked the beginning of a dark era for Uganda. In the early 20th century, Uganda was under British colonial rule. Joining the King's African Rifles, KAR, Amin found a sense of purpose and belonging. His towering stature and natural leadership qualities quickly caught the attention of his superiors. Rising through the ranks with remarkable speed, Amin distinguished himself as a capable and ambitious soldier. Under British colonial rule, the KAR served as a crucial instrument of control, tasked with maintaining order and suppressing dissent. Amin's loyalty and ruthlessness earned him favor among his commanders, paving the way for his rapid ascent through the ranks. Amin's rise through the ranks of the Ugandan army was meteoric. His charisma and physical presence made him a natural leader, and he was quick to exploit any opportunity for advancement. The British colonial authorities saw in Amin a loyal enforcer, someone who could be relied upon to maintain their grip on power. His rise through the ranks was facilitated by his willingness to do whatever was necessary to please his superiors. By the time Uganda gained independence in 1962, Amin had already established himself as a prominent figure within the military hierarchy. But as the winds of change swept across the African continent, Amin's ambitions would lead him down a dark and dangerous path. He rose from the ranks of the British colonial army to become Uganda's dictator in 1971. Idi Amin's rise to power in 1971 ushered in a horrific period for Uganda. His initial promises of prosperity quickly dissolved as he established a brutal dictatorship. Anyone perceived as a threat, including political rivals, intellectuals, and entire ethnic groups, faced imprisonment, torture, or even death. Internationally, his support for terrorism further isolated the nation. Amin's brutality culminated in the Entebbe raid, a humiliating event where Israeli commandos rescued hostages from Ugandan soil. By the late 1970s, facing internal rebellion and invasion from Tanzania, Amin's regime collapsed. Idi Amin's reign of terror in Uganda reached a turning point in 1976 with the daring Israeli raid on Entebbe airport. The successful rescue of hostages by Israeli commandos deeply humiliated Amin. Infuriated, he lashed out by executing airport employees, Kenyans he suspected of aiding the Israelis, and even an elderly British passenger. This act of barbarity solidified his reputation as the Butcher of Uganda. Amin's brutality wasn't limited to this incident. He documented killings exceeding 300,000 civilians during his rule. This included prominent figures like religious leaders, government officials, and academics. Amin's growing paranoia ultimately led to his downfall. In a rash decision, Amin launched a military invasion of Tanzania. While he initially captured a small strip of land, the victory was short-lived. Nyerere launched a counterattack that swiftly gained momentum. Kampala, the Ugandan capital, fell, and Amin's military crumbled. Facing defeat, Amin fled the country, leaving behind a nation shattered by his brutal regime. He found refuge in Libya for a decade under the protection of leader Gaddafi. Later, he moved to Saudi Arabia, where he lived out his final days, never facing justice for the atrocities he committed. He died in 2003, a fugitive from his bloody past. Amin's rise to power was marked by violence and intimidation. He quickly consolidated control over the country, eliminating any opposition with brutal efficiency. Fear was a constant companion during Amin's rule. No one felt safe. Families were torn apart. Loved ones disappeared without a trace. Amin's regime thrived on terror.